evening. We will now call the Fayette County School Corporation Board of School Trustees business meeting to attention. We are at the administration building. It is Tuesday, March 12th, 2019. And we would like to have some of our Maplewood students lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, if they would.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We do plan on having our Maplewood students do a presentation tonight, but before we do that, we would like to recognize Michael Beal. I think he wants to come up for a recognition of some sort for something.
So I'm Michael Beal. I'm the president of the FFA chapter at the high school, and what we have here is some appreciation for you guys and the administration staff here at the administration building. We're doing it as a part of FFA Week to show our thank you and our gratitude for what you guys do for us. Like last year, I know you helped us with making sure the solar panels weren't put on our school farm, and we really appreciate that greatly, as that's a main part of our FFA program. So we just wanted to show you guys thanks for all your help and your support.
Thank you. Thank you. Expected.
And it's not spiked or poisoned, Michael?
No.
Okay, just checking here. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank
No.
you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Hi, sweetie.
And we'll leave the rest on the front desk here for our...
Thank you all. We appreciate it.
Thank you. Oh, cool. Isn't that sweet? Yes.
Okay, well, tonight we are going to begin by having a presentation by Maplewood School. We have Mrs. McCann here with some students and teachers. Take it away.
Great, so this is my first, so I'm really excited to be here. Thank you, board members and cabinet, for letting Maplewood shine tonight. We're excited to be here. Today we're going to showcase what's called Orton Gillingham, which is in the teacher world kind of called old OG. You're going to probably hear more of it as we learn about this dyslexia bill coming through, and Maplewood has been really excited this year to go ahead and implement that into our reading, as we find that kids need an alternative strategy to reading. It's a sequential, very multi-sensory approach to reading, and currently Miss Poe in our classroom is doing our SLD work and working with Orton Gillingham. So what you're going to see tonight is a mini lesson on Orton Gillingham. Mrs. Poe?
Just before the kids get up here too, this is a very small section. This is called a visual drill. And so every day they get with me, we do a visual drill and an auditory drill. And those just kind of remind us every time what sounds these letters make. And just to show you on the back of all these, we have the letter O. And I bet you didn't know this, but O says lots of different things. And so what they do is they learn the most frequent sound O makes to begin with. So that'll buy them the most words. And then they learn all the other possibilities. They learn that if it's short O or if it's combined with another vowel team. And so that gives them something to hold on to, something tangible, something, this is the rule, she told me it's the rule, and I can count on it. Now, we all know in the English language, we once in a while have one that slips in by us, but really 80% of our language follows the rules. And that is usually enough to make for a really good reader. And with these kids as bright as they are, it works out great. So this is one of my little groups that actually these guys don't ever work together, but we did a little trial run today and they were perfect. So come on up. Normally they all sit down, we spread out, and so we're gonna make do with what we have. Can I introduce?
Sure. Please.
Yeah, I feel like the kids are here, they're the most important. They're the stars of the show. Let's scoot, you want to scoot over here a little bit, or Alyssa, you want to get on? There we go. Okay, so this is Princeton, and this is Alyssa, and this is Maddie, and this is Cheryl Ann.
I got it.
So I told them, don't be nervous. They probably don't even remember what some of these letters say. So they don't even know if you're making a mistake. Not that they do, and we always learn from it. That's right. All right, so, all right. Good morning. Good afternoon.
That seems weird, doesn't it?
All right, let's go. Okay, so. Aw, good. And where do we see this in a word? At the beginning, the middle, or the end? End. What tells you that it comes at the end? Look at the card for a hint. What? Yes, and what gives us this hint? What tells us that this card comes at these two letters come at the end? What is that little thing?
The little line.
The little line, thank you. What's this? Good. 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 A little bit louder, please. Good. But how would we know that this is a B and not a D?
The B.
Yeah, what's that called, Sherilyn?
Checker.
Your B checker, right. Oh. Only time you can stick your tongue out at me, right? Ruh. Not You got that now, don't you? Ruh. Good job, Kristen. Duh. There you go.
A.
A. Good job, Sherilyn. Nice. E. What? Can this happen in the beginning? Can it happen in the end? At the end?
Yeah.
Can it happen in the middle?
Yeah.
Good job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Aww. Or.
Good. R. Shh.
Good.
Good.
E.
F. Thank you. F, like elephant. Remember your keyword. All right. Now, if you would, just put that one finger. And we're going to blend these sounds. And remember, sometimes we get real words, and sometimes we get fake words, and sometimes we get not so nice words, and then we quickly change the card. So, ready? They love when you get a not so nice one. All right. Hong. Good. Pong. Pong. We've heard that word before, like ping pong. Okay, let's change the last one. Pawn. Now, what if I add this E, that silent E? Pone changes the vowel sound, doesn't it? Makes it long. Okay? So wait a minute. Fawn. Good, because we removed that E. Now what does it say? Phone. Good. Now, is this how you spell phone?
No.
No. What do we have to have?
You have to have a PH.
Very good, Maddie. Wait. We remove the E. Vaughn. There we go. Let's get rid of that F. N. Then. Oh, what do we get here? Vine. Right. And we've got a real word. Okay. Ken. Now, we haven't learned the lesson that sometimes the C says S or makes that S sound. Okay. So we just go with the rules that we know, don't we? All right. Ix or kicks. You're right. X, Zix. What would this be? Ice, Zikes. Good. Ix, Jix. Ix, licks. Is that how you spell licks? Like the dog licks the little one? No. Okay. Lib. Let's change this. What's this say? Lay. Can you think of another word where we could change the beginning sound? Say. Very good. What would we add? What letter? May. You're on a fay. Absolutely. Lots of AY words. AY says A. Okay. Yeah. A still. Fay. Is that how we spell fay? Like we're sweating? No. Third. Good. E, fee. And then we can, oh, this doesn't work. Try this. Feed. Very nice. What's this say? Thaw. We still like to get a little in that. Thaw. Do we know that word thaw? What does thaw mean? Do you know? I'm so cold. I hope my toes
Unthaw.
or they thaw out. Very good. Okay. Waw. Okay. Wud. Wutch. Good. Or. Sore. Sar. Good. War. Good job. I think you've done an excellent job. Let's do this one. Mac. What's this?
Whack.
Wait a minute. We didn't check this. Get carried away. Make. Good job. E goes back, makes A say its name. Make. Yak. What's this? Yake. Whack. There it is. Wake. All right. Wash. This is a good one. We saw one of these like this today, where if we're using our rules, it says wash, doesn't it? If we put an E down here, it says wash. What does it say that doesn't follow the rules? What is that word? You're using the correct rules. Remember how sometimes that A makes that schwa sound, that ah? This would be like, my car is just filthy. Wash. There you go. Wash. Okay. All right. Tank. Oh, nice. Tank. Gank. All right. We are all done. Now we get our notebooks, write the sounds where they would have to. I would give the sound, then they would give the letter. So that just gets us warmed up. Then we can start reading. If we skip this, and I have, it's a big mistake. Yeah, it's a big mistake. We need this enforcement beforehand. They do a great job. Best of the bunch.
Great.
We're excited. Maplewood's excited. We intend to do some more training with OG staff-wide, and he even hit some learners who are struggling, maybe behind. So we're really excited about OG and bringing it to Maplewood and supporting our students that way. Any questions, Mike? Thank you for having us. We're excited.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Awesome.
They're like, go.
So I recognize this. It's phonics on steroids.
Yeah.
But it's really,
Well, when she said something about the A, the E makes the A say its name, that was what I learned as a child. The at the end makes the A say its name.
but
So some things
I
that
learned phonics and made it really easy to do that. And she's right, you know, we didn't go through some of those hard sounds every day. You didn't just pass out the little books with your readers. No, we had certain sounds that we practiced especially when it's really cool.
Okay.
That's great.
I would like to entertain a motion to approve the agenda as submitted and amended.
Make a motion?
Thank you, Andy. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Thank you, Dennis. Do I hear any discussion? All those in favor signify by raising your hand. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Okay, we will now look to see if there's any patron comments on agenda items. Seeing none, we will move on to the consent agenda, which includes the approval of minutes from the regular business meeting of 2/12/19, the executive session of 2/12/19, and the executive session of 3/5/19. The personnel report, retirements, resignations, leaves of absences. The approval of the February 2019 claims, number 52456 through 52701. Donations, a donation of $5,075 for CHS from Dr. Dana Riemann, a donation of $12,880 from the East Central Insurance Trust for Employee Wellness Initiatives, a donation of $1,200 from the Fayette County Drug Coalition for CMS Red Ribbon Week, and a donation valued at $1,348.71 from Precision Machining Lab for WCC. And lastly, an approval of donation of the old stage lights to the Roberts Park Board for use in the amphitheater. So, with the consent agenda, I would like to look for a motion to approve.
I so move.
Thank you, Ann. Do I hear a second?
Madam President, oh,
Thank you, Lori. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by raising your hand. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Okay, we will now move on to the action items. Personnel report, recommendations for employment. Mr. Serkla.
Thank you. Recommendations for employment and administrative staff, Kelly Flum McCullum, who has been the interim director of Head Start and Early Child. We are going to make her full-time at this point, director of Head Start and Early Childhood. Certified staff, Kate Charlton, elementary teacher at Maplewood. Hannah Bulger, Title I educational assistant at Frazee. Melinda Schummel, Title I education assistant at Everton. Rhonda Day, custodian at Grandview and Fayette Central. Kayla Noah, development pre-K education assistant at Maplewood. Angela Pennington, special ed assistant at Maplewood. Brooke Pentecost, temporary part-time Title I education assistant at Maplewood. And Lisa Robinson, special ed assistant at Fayette Central. Extracurricular, Jeff Martin, varsity boys golf coach. Kevin Ray, softball coach at Connersville Middle School. Mark Sullenberger, assistant track coach at Connersville Middle School. And Macaulay Vessels, assistant track coach at Connersville High School.
Thank you, Mr. Serkla. Seeing the personnel report, I'd like to ask for a motion.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Mark. Do I hear a second?
Second that, Madam
Thank you, Chris. Any discussion?
I think it's not Brooke Pentecost anymore, it's Brooke Cassidy. That was the only thing I saw.
I don't know that she's changed her name with
Well-
us yet.
When we hired her the last time, she was Brooke Cassidy.
Okay.
We kind of require official documents in the legal name.
Okay.
For payroll.
Okay.
So if she's not received an updated social security card, that
Well,
might be
it's just that we hired her before and it was under Brooke
Different name.
Cassidy. And that's when I saw Pentecost, I thought that it just.
We'll look into that.
Yeah. Same person, good, same person, good person.
Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by raising your hand. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Okay, next action item is the Head Start orientation, approval of Head Start grant, and budget self-assessment and goals. Ms. Corsario.
Thank you, President and Board. Tonight I have Kelly McCollum here, and she is going to present the budget and other things that she needs your approval of. So at this time, I'm going to turn it over to Kelly. We moved the podium, like where'd it go? You're okay.
Okay, first order of business is the Head Start governing body orientation. You are all considered the governing body for the Head Start because the school corporation holds the grant. So part of the Head Start performance standards requires you to have an orientation on what Head Start is about. So Head Start is a federal program initiated in the 1960s as part of President Johnson's War on Poverty and operated under a federal grant. The original purpose of the program was to prepare children living in poverty for school. Today, this preparation includes academic, social, and health readiness, as well as parent education and engagement. Fayette County School Corporation is the grantee for the Head Start program in Fayette County. The Fayette County School Board is the governing board for the local program and has the responsibility for ensuring compliance with federal laws and regulations, understanding the philosophy and the role of parents in the Policy Council, being fiscally and legally accountable for overseeing and administering the program, ensuring the internal controls are in place to safeguard federal funds, reviewing and improving all major agency policies, including self-assessment, financial audits, and the Head Start grant progress in carrying out the grant provisions. The Fayette County Head Start is governed by the policies and procedures of Fayette County Schools and federal Head Start performance standards. This shared governance between Fayette County Schools and Head Start's Policy Council, which is a group composed of Head Start parents and community representatives that make up 51% of the council, provides the program's framework, including the assignment of all program responsibilities and the development and review of policies and procedures. Specifically, Head Start Policy Council must be consulted and approve planning procedures, including all funding applications, amendments, and the annual program self-assessment, and the general administration of the program, including the procedures for shared decision-making and resolving internal disputes. Locally, the Head Start program serves all of Fayette County with 6 Head Start classrooms. We also partner with CFSS and serve approximately 35 to 40 additional children with special needs that are served in our classrooms. So that concludes your orientation. Are there any questions before we move on? Policy Council meets once a month. Lori Savoy is a member of Policy Council. Any major decisions per the grant goes through you as the governing body and also Policy Council before it's officially approved, as with my employment. So that's why we re-employed me tonight. Okay. Moving on to the self-assessment. The self-assessment is a process that drives our grant. So starting around January, self-assessment committees are formed to talk about the different areas of the program, such as the enrollment process, the health guidelines, all the parts of the Head Start performance standards. It's a mandated process. It lets us look at our program goals and determine if we're meeting those goals, what evidence we have to support that we're meeting our program goals, what challenges we may face in the future year as we're planning. Some of the things that came out in this year's self-assessment is our need to continue exploring our mental health partnerships. We have a mental health consultant for Head Start that is due to retire soon, so we're looking at other options so we can continue that level of support within our preschool classrooms. Also, another area that came out as something that we need to focus on is helping our families establish a stable healthcare system. It is one of our program goals to have that continuing coverage. So our health coordinators work diligently in making sure none of our families lose lapse in coverage and have the services that they need. The Head Start performance standards require us to meet timelines, 45 and 90 days for medical, vision, dental, and our community really supports that endeavor. Some of the positives that came out of our self-assessment is that the school corporation is our grantee. It gives our Head Start program many opportunities that other Head Start programs don't have the opportunity to have. We have highly qualified staff. All of our teachers have bachelor's or master's. We have a strong partnership with CFSS serving our special needs students. Our community partnerships have a long history together and they're expanding. The community really does drive our program. It's a huge part. Our fiscal management is also a strength that came out with Janie's knowledge and just having her as a support for this budget and this grant, and our comprehensive monitoring procedures. We're always in compliance with our guidelines and usually pass with flying colors when we are monitored. Another area that came out as a significant finding was the high obesity rate of our children. All of our children have a nutrition health assessment and a growth assessment, and 52 of our 162 enrolled were considered obese. So that's one of our program goals that we are focusing on again next year. That includes the self-assessment. Any questions about that?
Well, I would just have one comment, and that is, how can you, as Head Start people, control the obesity rate?
We cannot. Right. We cannot control the obesity rate, but we can provide our families with resources and with education to start at this early age and informing them and providing that awareness.
But if it's one of your goals that children enrolled will be less than 20%, do you get dinged, so to speak?
They might flag it, but when I do the narrative, the justification, that will be an explanation with that supporting documentation from the self-assessment. That particular health core group had some key community members with the food insecurity and some health officials. And then we also do the community assessment, which has current community data. So all of that will support that. We know we can't change that, but we can start empowering our families to seek the information that they need to make those little changes that over time will show, hopefully. And so along with the self-assessment are the program goals, and I believe you saw that huge packet of the goals and the timelines, and this is something monitored weekly within our leadership team. We meet weekly, we go through these goals, we come up with plans to address these goals, we have a timeline for everything, and it really does guide the program. So as I'm learning more about this process and it makes more sense to me now, I'm excited to start the year off with a deeper knowledge of these program goals and how we can use that to guide our planning within our classrooms, within our parent-child activities, with our parent engagement, with our enrollment. So, any questions about the program goals? Okay. Next up is the budget. The Head Start grant and budget will be submitted to the Head Start Regional Office by April 1st. That's when the grant is due. Our Head Start program can apply for a total of $1,182,616 in federal funds, which includes the COLA grant, the Head Start cost of living adjustment, and the Head Start training and technical assistance. We are required to provide approximately $295,654 in matching non-federal share funds. So those are our in-kind funds from the community contributions, including volunteering and just generating community support for the program. We are funded to serve 162 eligible children, and we will continue to serve some children whose family income is below the 130% poverty level, and then ensure that the eligible children at the 100% poverty level are enrolled first. Every 5 years, a community assessment is held, and last year was the first year of the 5-year grant. So this year, we went through and made sure that the information reflected was accurate of our community today. There really were no significant changes within our community in the last year. And some of the major issues that we still see within our community are transportation, food insecurity, the health issues, and addiction that affect our residents. So all that aside, with our program planning, the budget reflects our needs to address our program goals. And I think everybody saw the copy of our budget justification, with our base funding being $1,143,440 to support our Head Start program operation. That includes our personnel, our fringes, and then other, which would include transportation, food services, our state licensing, and our mental health. Are there any questions about the budget?
So you just need approval of.
I do need approval of.
Do you need approval of each one of them individually?
I need approval of each one individually, just to make sure we have it all covered.
Okay.
So the orientation, the self-assessment, and the budget, please.
All right, so I'll start with the Head Start orientation. I'd like to have a motion to approve the orientation. Thank you. Thank you, Chris. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Ann. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by raising your hand. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Excuse me. I will now seek a motion for the approval of the Head Start grant and budget.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Lori. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Andy. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by raising your hand. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. And lastly, I'd like a motion to approve the self-assessment and goals.
Make a motion.
Thank you, Andy. Second. Thank you, Chris. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by raising your hand. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you very much.
I appreciate your time.
Well, we appreciate all your hard work.
Kelly, I just want to say that you're doing a bang-up job and stay encouraged.
Thank you.
You're doing a fine job.
Thank you very much. I'm really enjoying it, and it really is the staff. They have such a love of the program and the community, and they inspire me. So,
Thank you.
Thank you, Kelly.
Okay. Now we will move on to the approval of the 2019 quota capital projects. Ms. Helen Talbot.
Mrs. Jacobs, we've had a few items that have been on the burner for a while. We've had some damage or wear on the ceiling at the auditorium at the middle school. It's taken us a while to find some individuals to actually quote that project. We wanted to have it done for a while, but it's up there, it requires scaffolding, protecting the seats that are already in there. Additionally, the lighting, the LED lighting project for the gym at Everton, we had quoted last fall, but did not have enough capital projects funding available at Everton's site to do it at that time. That the LED lighting to our school gymnasiums is the biggest bang for our buck when it comes to replacing the lighting. We're also going to do Fayette Central's gym. However, it can be done in-house, like Grandview's was already done. This one is a little bit tougher animal, so we sought competitive quotes for that project to have that lighting updated. And in addition to that, last year we did part of the Maplewood window shade replacement. This is the remaining part of that. It was included in the capital projects plan. However, the total cost is slightly more than what was originally budgeted. I think we'll be able to make in-flight adjustments to accommodate that additional cost and get that project wrapped up in one foul swoop for the remainder of the building. So I'm requesting this evening that you approve these projects. The LED and the window shades, again, were built into the capital projects. My recommendation included in this is to take the auditorium ceiling repair from the emergency allocation in the capital projects, as it was not known about at the time the budget was developed and specifically identified in the capital projects plan. So.
The only question I have is just more of a curiosity. It's not really a question about the project. The window shades at Maplewood, those aren't shades within the window? Those are external shades separate? You know how a lot of new windows have?
Yeah, but the windows aren't new.
Yeah, so these are just regular shades?
Yes, commercial shades.
Yeah.
And we've had a long partnership with Draper Shade, who no longer does that directly. If we want to use that, we go through Lakeview, and Stu installs them. He comes in after hours, weekends. I think he came in at Christmas time and did some, so, yeah.
All right, I would like to ask for a motion to approve the 2019 quota capital projects.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Mark. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Lori. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by raising your hand. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Okay, we will now move on to discussion items. First being the elementary CMS, CHS, and WCC discipline plans, bus conduct, and FCSC code of conduct. Ms. Corsaro.
Thank you, President and Board. In your package, you will find all of the student discipline plans for all of the schools, including our FCSC code of conduct. There's only been one major change, and a couple months ago we approved the board policy for the metal detectors, and in that policy it states that we will put it in our student handbook. So we worked with our attorney on some language that we can place in our student handbooks that mirrors that board policy. So you will see that that's been added to all of the books. The rest of them are some date changes, some staff changes, but any changes that were made are either highlighted in red or they're marked through and then with yellow. So I will be bringing these back for your approval next month. So this is just time for you to go over them, but I just wanted to highlight that the major change has been the search of the metal detectors and our policy on that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next discussion item will be that, is there any questions for Ms. Corsaro? We're not going to do it right now. The next discussion item is Connersville Parks and Recreation Board. Mr. Collins, I hope that's coming back to me though.
Thank you, Ms. Jacobs, and Board, I will turn it over to you in a second, but just Leslie had received some communication from the city attorney about something that we need to be more involved in, I guess, that we weren't aware of with the park board. So Leslie has the background and some information I thought she might share.
Well, I received a call from David Butch, who is the city attorney for Connersville, stating that they discovered that the current Connersville Park Board is supposed to have 2 appointees from the school board and the library board, which they do. However, according to the ordinance, those persons appointed have to actually be active members of the board. So in other words, and I don't know if you saw that when Scott included it in the agenda, that the actual wording is that the Park and Recreation Board shall have 2 ex officio members as follows. 1 member of the governing body of the school corporation selected by that body for a 4-year term. When Mr. Butch contacted me, he wanted to know if I was aware, which, I mean, I did some checking with Scott just to make sure that we did, we appointed the current president of the park board, who's serving in that capacity at this point. But I thought that that was quite a burden to place on the boards, and they had some concern with the library board because apparently there aren't very many people on the library board, or it's hard for those individuals to divide their time. And so there was a meeting held. I was not able to attend. I was notified of the meeting, but it fell at a time when I had a prior commitment. And it involved the mayor and the attorney and somebody from the library board. And they were to let me know what the result was of that meeting. And the only result was a letter that I received from February 26th stating that the Fayette County School Board's appointee to the Connersville Parks and Recreation Board does not meet the qualifications required by our city ordinance. I will share one other little piece of information because this was to be brought up tonight as a discussion item for any of you who might be interested in serving on the park board to consider a 4-year term on the park board. They meet once a month. They sometimes have special meetings just like we do. I happen to know somebody from the park board, and I contacted that person. They are not our appointee, but they are the appointee of the library board. And that, as of today, that individual had no idea that this letter was sent out or that there were any changes being made to the park board.
So you say for a 4-year term, but what if our current term on the board is 2 years? What happens?
I don't know.
Okay.
So I was not at this meeting, and so I didn't hear what they said, but apparently they decided they were going to stick to the city ordinance. What I would like to do, I mean, I've already had a conversation with David Butch, but I probably need to have another conversation because that would mean probably that if you came off the board, we would have to appoint somebody else to fill that position for the remaining 2 years of that term. I'm more the messenger than anything else, but I wanted to make sure I delivered that message in its entirety, including my awareness that current park board members appointed by the 2 boards were not aware that this was happening. So, with that in mind, there may be, I'm willing to have another conversation with Mr. Butch. I don't know if any of you have ideas. I don't know if there's anybody here who would like to serve on the park board. It would be a commitment of some sort, and I think they meet Monday nights. I don't know which Monday of the month, but one Monday, and I think they meet at 5 p.m. Any thoughts?
Just guessing that from the city point of view, that if someone came back to the board on a decision that they made and it wasn't a board member that was on that committee, they would be in jeopardy. I'm guessing that's where this is coming from.
Maybe, yeah, I don't know where it's coming from. I know that we appoint to other boards, like the foundation board, but that's not one of our members. So that could be, I don't know anything about the workings of the park
Who
board.
is our representative now?
Tom Powers.
Okay.
And Tom is the president of the park board.
This is.
And the other confusing part is that it does state in the ordinance that our board appointee and the library board appointee are ex officio members, meaning they don't vote.
No, but 4 years ago, when he was appointed, I volunteered for that job, and I was told I was not given the job because I volunteered to be the school board representative on the park board. And I was unaware of that I have been a volunteer in the city parks department longer than I care to think about, and therefore have some prior knowledge of some of the projects that they do, because I have been directly involved volunteering forever. So at that time, 4 years ago, I volunteered and I was told that I was not qualified. And, you know, I don't need another meeting, but this is something near and dear to my heart. I worked in the Parks Department with the baseball and all of that stuff for years, and one more Monday isn't gonna kill me. So I would gladly volunteer that, unless Mark wants to do it.
I would like to nominate him.
This is a discussion item. Yeah, this will be for an action item for next month. I do feel a little bit of a responsibility to follow up, just with...
Just double check, but like I said, I remember specifically volunteering for this 4 years ago, and my term is up in 4 years, because I was just reelected in November. So that would, the things would coincide.
That would be good timing, yes.
The timing would coincide, and like I said, I have been a volunteer with that for about 35 years, so.
Yeah, that's just interesting how
Thank you.
how this has all come about.
Well, don't tell my family yet, but that's okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, Ms.
No problem, no problem.
Okay, so that's that item.
So we will have that as an action item at the April board meeting then
Okay.
for Ann Kirshner.
Okay. Well, let's not jump to it. We haven't voted yet.
For her to be
Yes, to be
recommended for
recommended.
approval,
Yeah.
yes.
Okay. Moving on to the next discussion item, Magic Moments Operations, Mr. Collins.
Thank you, Mr. President, Board. I have shared, I've tried to keep you up to date on some of the financial struggles that Magic Moments has been facing. I wanted to learn more about Magic Moments. I remember it being here for a long time. So I actually went back and looked at board minutes from the 1990s to get a little bit of the history. So initially, I thought it was founded for a different reason than what I probably communicated to you. So Richard Link was the assistant superintendent who spearheaded this back in 1993. And a committee was formed to perform a step ahead, if you remember, step ahead needs assessment. And what it did is it identified for Fayette County that we lacked quality childcare facilities.
Yeah.
And so a committee was formed, and we actually applied in October of 1993 and the board went into a cooperation agreement with the Indiana Department of Commerce and applied for a community-focused fund grant. I did not know any of this. And as a result of those funds, they selected the current site, one with the bypass that was rumored to be built back in that day. Remember, it was a big topic for years. So ease of access and on a safe drive with Spartan Drive, and then also close proximity to the Connersville Area Vocational School, now called Whitewater Career Center. And Bob Hoffman was there leading that back then. And so it allowed those students to work in the new program with early childhood. So those were the two reasons why it was located where it was at. And the original intent was to provide quality childcare to low-income families. So that was its primary purpose when it was established. A lot's happened since then, name changes and different leaders and different things happening. A preschool classroom was added. I think that was done to try to provide an option before we had the preschool options that we've invested in here as a district over the last couple of years. And then also Magic Moments would house one of our Head Start classrooms, which was a source of revenue for Magic Moments. That they receive $8,500 from Head Start to pay for the facility costs, for some of the administrative costs there. As part of our early childhood plan, one of the pieces of the puzzle that we're moving is with the Magic Moments Head Start program. We're going to be moving that to Maplewood next year as we work on trying to combine some of our Head Start staff and classrooms into one facility, which, my dream and our dream here as a team has been trying to get that early learning center model established. So Magic Moments will lose that $8,500 of income for next year as a result of that move. In the calendar year 2018, Magic Moments overspent its revenue by $34,000. They did have some cash balance in place with their preschool that helped offset some of that. But with the preschool piece alone, Janie has run the numbers. We're losing about $500 a month currently in the preschool class. And since we do pay the preschool teacher throughout the summer, like we do with the teacher pay, we're going to be at about $4,000 loss there that we will have to cover as a district. Just looking at the projections of where we're at, there are some months where it looks like revenue is keeping pace with the expenses, but when you look at the full year piece, they're not keeping up. With that, in 2012, the Fayette County School Corporation, the board, approved providing $42,158 to Magic Moments to help through their financial struggles in 2012. As of today, we received $10,000 of that back. So Magic Moments still owes the district over $32,000 for that no interest loan pretty much that we provided to them. So as superintendent, this is a tough thing because I think that program is near and dear to all of our hearts, and I love going up there and visiting and eating lunch with the kids, and they trick or treat down here. But I also have to look at it from the fiscal side of it. Is it in our best interest to continue funding daycare and preschool for paying customers, paying patrons in Fayette County schools? With the opportunities that we've developed with our preschool program, most of our kids in Magic Moments will be able to be served in a no-cost preschool there next year. There are a couple of kids who would fall in that area where they're not old enough to be eligible for one of our preschools. I think there are two from what Kelly told me. So those folks would need to find some other daycare opportunities. And so I bring that to you as a discussion item. I've tried to keep you aware of some of the financial struggles and, seek your input, thoughts on the future of that program and what do we do? Do we continue to fund it from our state revenue that's earmarked really for our K-12 programming? And because that's my struggle, is we're really funding people's child care here. And I struggle with that piece, and I don't know if that's how we should be fiscally operating at this point. So I wanted to present that to you and to our patrons, and it's a concern for me. And I think I speak for Janie and our team here too, that we have some concerns with how much more loss do we incur and how much of that do we take on as a school district. So, thoughts, questions?
Do you have an idea about being able to absorb some of the staff? What would happen to the staff?
I know Kelly is anticipating at least 4 openings next year in your programming with our Title I preschool or Head Start. And I think there are 5 employees who would be seeking employment, is that correct?
4 employees, and they are already licensed since Magic Moments is passed to Quality 3. Our Head Start programs are also passed to Quality, so they would transition right into that process without accruing a cost of going through the licensing procedure again. So the 4 of them would have options within Title or Head Start as ed assistants, nutrition bus assistants, depending on their qualifications, but there is a spot for staff.
That was one of the things we checked. We don't want to cause anyone to not have a job here, and they want to continue working here. And there are some long-time dedicated employees there who have done a really great job, so we would not want that. So that was a really great question. Thank you.
The only thing I would add, I was sharing with Scott that one of the reasons that I chose Magic Moments when I still had young children at home was because it was a center like a school. And I did have a couple of my kids in home daycares. nice people that ran them. I was looking for something different. I was looking for a facility that was modern, that there wasn't necessarily a TV there that was on, that was focused on early childhood things, even though when my kids went, so my kids started, where Ann's kids started, at a daycare run by a teacher, Pleasant Beginnings, and it was very education oriented. Then when that closed, my kids went to Delightful Days, which was at St. Gabriel's, which was secular, even though it was housed in St. Gabriel's. It was run by Mary Beth Bergen, who was a teacher. And then when that closed, Mary Beth brought the program to Magic Moments, and she was the first director, followed, and her assistant director was Teresa Levi, who took it over when Mary Beth passed away. And my kids were at Delightful Days and then came to Magic Moments. So I've been through this whole transition and know, I feel like I know what some of the concerns are for those parents who have chosen a center like Magic Moments. Now we have the whole preschool component, which wasn't available when my kids were little. So my kids went for daycare. But I do think that one thing we have to offer that is really a good, smooth transition would be the preschool component and the fact that some of the classrooms are not based on income eligibility.
Correct.
Right. So some of those parents who might have kids in a preschool program at Magic Moments, and I know you guys have done all the work and I appreciate that, but just to reiterate for the public that those kids could still go into a preschool program and get that same benefit without, even if they didn't meet the income eligibility.
Right, and that's a good point. We have 2 federal grants that fund the majority of our classes. So one is Head Start, and then the other is Title I, and we currently have 2 of those. If you recall, we opened those classes, and they've been very successful, and then we're going to open a 3rd. That's our plan now in our budget for our grant for Title I, to offer a 3rd. And some patrons may say, how can you offer free preschool when we were having to pay at Magic Moments? And the difference is, as a Title I school district, we're a district-wide program, so we aren't tied to the income levels.
Head Start.
Right. If we were a targeted assistance, targeted support district with Title I, we would have to be more strategic. We couldn't open it up to anyone. So that allows us, through the grant and how we write that, to be able to have Title I preschools for all children who live here in Fayette County, which that's a big help to our parents, and plus it is paid for through a federal grant that we receive. So as our focus has really shifted to early intervention and early childhood, we have opportunities with these programs to double dip some of our kids and to give them a morning and an afternoon program too, through this Title I program, which is something Kelly's been working on a lot.
And we've also been double dipping between Head Start and Title. So some of our Grandview morning Head Start children go to the Title program at Grandview in the afternoon. We also have over-income spots available in Head Start. So part of those poverty guidelines include the over-income slots.
Just what, 130%?
Or even higher. We have to serve the 100% first, but if there are additional funding spots available, then they go to over-income. So all of those incomes are verified as kids enroll, and then we monitor that weekly.
And we also have our developmental preschool, which there are some spots there for peers as well, children who may not have an IEP, might not have a specific disability listed, where we have spots for children there.
We have a 50% ratio of typical peers because we know the children learn best from their peers in our developmental preschool. So we have 3- and 4-year-olds included in that program as typical peers. Head Start serves ages 3, 4, and 5. Title only serves ages 4 and 5. So those over-income spots within Head Start would first priority to 3-year-olds to make sure we're servicing every child that we can. We do have the option with Head Start moving to Maplewood to double dip between developmental and Head Start. So it would really be a case-by-case, families' needs first. Other daycares within the community have partnerships with Head Start, and we do provide transportation between Head Start and other child care facilities within the corporation, depending on parents' needs. That's
Just Head Start, though? Not the Title I preschools? There's-
We have transportation between, for Title preschool as well, depending on families' needs. We turned in all those
Okay.
requests at the beginning of the year, and transportation honored most of them.
I see from some of the patron comments that I've heard, people just aren't aware of all of the things that we are offering them because it is so daunting to find good childcare, and once you find it, you think, oh, please don't quit, you know. And I think we need to do a better job of communicating to the community as a whole all the options that are available, and it's not always income-based. And, you know, we have openings, and this is a real boon to the community, but I just don't think that a large enough segment of our population understands all the options that we do have, particularly the transportation piece, because that becomes huge when you're working and you have a kid that's goes one place one day for a while, and then you have to go pick them up and transport them. That becomes very problematic for a lot of people on many levels. So I think we need to do a much better job of promoting these programs, putting something together so impacted parents would know these are their options within the school corporation. I think that would allay a lot of the fears, because there's nothing worse than saying, oh my gosh, my daycare's closing. Leslie and I have been through it when our children were much younger, and that's frightening, because you want quality child care for your children, and to find the babysitter, to find the other one, it takes networking, and a lot of the places simply have waiting lists now. The private daycares have some waiting lists, which is even scarier. You know, what do I do?
They're, with the Early Learning Coalition that the foundation is putting together, they're partnered with Huffer Childcare, and they do childcare referrals for quality childcare programs. So our community has 3 other paths to quality level 3 besides Magic Moments and our Head Start classrooms. I've called all of them in the last couple weeks to touch base. They're part of a network for that Pinwheel Parade that happens in April. So we're all in collaboration for that. And there is a network among child care centers, but I agree, getting it out to the public and knowing those options is important.
I think that would solve a lot of our issues, because parents understand fiscal issues. I mean, they do, and the amount of money that it's costing us is just, it becomes prohibitive after a while. And it's not that we don't like doing it, but it's just, you like steak, but you gotta have hamburger every once in a while. But I think we need to do a much better job of explaining the different kinds of options that are open, and the transportation piece. Because again, it's just a very scary, I know Leslie and I back in the day scrambled a few times to find childcare for our kids, so.
And I want to speak on that just for a minute. I think it's a catch-22. We were pretty strategic with how we rolled out the Title I preschool this first year. You know, we communicated a lot at the fair and through different groups. We had billboards, if you remember.
Oh, yes.
You know, we invested in a lot of different things, but there's also the other side of that is if we go and actively recruit the Magic Moments parents when they had already enrolled and were planning, that could have left them in a lot worse shape after these parents had already committed to them for, you know, they had to plan their stuff. So this is why I think now we're looking at this now, because parents need time to make decisions to figure it out. And so, you know, we present it to you as a discussion, but, you know, I need some direction from the board on where do we go next with this. And if the board does choose to, you know, invest more in our free preschools and programming, that gives Kelly time. She would be very happy to help any of our Magic Moments parents with finding the right spot for them to navigate through that and look at the transportation. So that would be one of the pieces that I've asked her to do if this is something the board decides to move forward
I think
with.
that's just a really critical piece.
Yeah, it is.
Because that's where the fear comes. That's, as the parent, how do we, the program may be good, but how do I get my kids there? Or, move them around. So if we're willing to educate our parents, better give them the information that they need, I think it'll allay a lot of the fears of the.
Is transportation provided now for students at Magic Moments?
No, they have to bring their kids there now, except for our Head
So
Start
this is almost like
classroom.
a positive, it's like a step up, because
Exactly.
now we're providing transportation to Title I, and so
Good
question.
it's a possibility.
And developmental preschool for the kids who have qualified for that too, that's provided. So really, it's,
So it's bus transportation to the program, then there is bus transportation from the program to a daycare.
Certain
Currently.
children, yes. So certain children whose parents work all day and they need preschool and daycare. When it was just Head Start, you can only service a child in one session of Head Start. You can't dual serve through the Head Start program. So when that was the case, Head Start does its own transportation. You approved our bus, we got our bus finally, our other bus. We transport certain children. We might pick them up at God's Little Blessings in the morning. They come to Head Start because their parents may have to be at work at 7, so they get dropped off at 6. Our bus picks them up, takes them to our Head Start site. They have their lunch, they get taken back to God's Little Blessings, and they may still stay till 5 when parents get off work. So again, that's just about the communication piece. When we have our enrollment process, we go through all of those steps with our families, figure out, we're in constant communication with our transportation department. I would say many times throughout the day where we have a plan in place for every scenario possible when we're transporting preschoolers.
So it sounds like, given the students that are enrolled in Magic Moments now, there would be, I know we kind of discussed, a place for them in Title I, or obviously, and even the transportation piece, then obviously the daycare piece. So I'm trying to think from a parent standpoint, how much is, this transition, if it happens, move forward, how much of it is going to really disrupt their day-to-day?
for some, it will provide, a savings of $400 or more a month, and it will provide that transportation piece. We do have, Kelly, I did have her go through each child, and there are 2 that she believes may not, because of age, they won't hit age 3, will not be eligible for any of our preschools in the fall. Out of all the kids, there are 2. So those are ones we would work with them, Kelly would work with them to help them find a place.
And of the population at Magic Moments currently, over 20 are going to kindergarten next year. So there are really not as many children on the daycare side. Preschool side is different, but the daycare side who...
There are currently 42, 43?
Yes, and that includes the preschool side. So that's all children under that building except for the Head Start classroom. So that's within the 2 3-year-old room, 4 5-year-old room. 20 some of those are going on to kindergarten. The ones who are getting ready to turn 4 would be eligible for Head Start or Title. The ones who are already 3 or will be 3 would be eligible for developmental or Head Start. There were 2 children who did not turn 3 by August. They would still be 2.
Sounds like we've got a lot of positives, a lot of things in place here in order to secure education for the children, and we're not just leaving them on the dark. And the same thing for the staff, since we've got some open positions for them to transition into and move from there. So, given that, given the information that you've given, personally, I see it, it is change and it can be difficult. It's tough to swallow that, but it seems like we've got plenty of time here to transition that and get on the parent schedule. But it seems to me like this sounds like this may be the direction we need to go, considering the financial status that Magic Moments is in. And it doesn't seem like history has shown that it doesn't seem to be something that's the most beneficial for the taxpayer, and then for even for parents financially.
It really does come down to there's more value, and I've been in our preschools, all of them, there's just we have outstanding teachers and programming here, and Magic Moments has great people too, I'm not saying that, but there are some really good opportunities. We have never had anything like this for our families in Fayette County, and we're continuing to grow that program. And with that too, when I looked at a calendar of a timeline of possibly this happening, our preschool class would end when school ended for us. So right now that's May 29th. For our daycare portion, I would like to keep it open through July 31st in the month of July. And then those employees who work in the daycare could then start the next week working in their new position in our schools. So they don't see a big drop in income or anything. That's important to us
It's about
as
a
well.
week time down there, is that
There's
right?
a week period where
Yeah.
they maybe
Yeah,
take a few
that's-
days off and enjoy family or whatever, but then they
Yeah.
wouldn't see a big loss of income for them as well. And it gives our families 3 to 4 months to get things worked out. So that was sort of my timeline I wanted to propose.
And as long as we have the communication piece with the parents and providing with the information and guidance in making these kinds of decisions, because it's just it's very daunting. And would be a huge savings not having, to pay that piece, so.
Yeah, change is going to be difficult, but I'm glad there's options and everything. That's what's comforting to know that there is something that they can go and, positive and a good program and all that, so.
We're not just
That's a
saying,
good thing.
we're not just saying we're
Right.
closing this.
Closing, that's it.
No.
Tough, no.
You're on your own.
No.
No.
And there are quality preschools out there, there are 3 that are level 3s that are in the community, and we have several others that are, I hear a lot of good things about. So I think we're in a little different position than we were 25 years ago when the quality of childcare was not what it was now with the level of, of accreditation and approval that we have from the state with them, so.
We've come a long way.
And I'm glad we can give this much notice too to parents. It's not like next month you're on your own, but this is a good bit of notice, so that's great.
So I guess for me, it's a discussion time and some direction on what I'm hearing. Would you like just to continue working on this then and
Yes.
bring it back in April?
Absolutely, yes.
Okay.
Absolutely.
And I assure you, Kelly we will prepare communication to go to our families, and, Kelly's, we'll get her contact info out. I think we'll be able to support everyone in finding a place for them. I feel pretty confident about that.
That's good.
Good.
All right, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Now is the time for public comments. Persons wishing to make the board aware of suggestions, ideas, and/or comments may address the board at this time. Comments which involve personnel or students must be discussed in private. Not seeing any. We will go on to report items. Superintendent discussion groups report.
I did want to just share one thing really quick. We had our first district insurance committee meeting, and I have been in contact with Richard Sutton. He was the gentleman who presented, and he has been trying to coordinate a time for me to talk to superintendents who represent the other 2 trusts that we discussed. So that's our next step, and then he's going to work with me on getting some other companies in to do some presentations. So for those who may not be aware, we're looking at our health insurance for our employees to determine if that's the best bang for our buck and the best benefits. So we started that committee. I anticipate the next meeting to be after spring break at this point, because I'm still trying to work out a time to meet with Richard and the other 2 trust representatives. So just wanted to let you know that's something, and Ann is representing the board on that, and I think the first meeting went really well, and we learned a lot.
It was very, very informative.
So thank you.
Great. And I was only going to bring up just that we continue to get legislative updates, so keep following those if you can make any calls. Principal directors reports.
I would like to thank the board for approving Dr. Ryman's donation. If you remember last year, he made a sizable donation to the foundation that created an endowment for Connersville High School teachers. His wish is that money is used for items that teachers usually buy for themselves for their classroom use. So he comes in late fall, we look over the applications, and sometimes I have to tell him they really weren't going to spend $5,000 on microscopes for their classroom. But he picks, he might say, well, I'll buy them 1 or 2. And so he goes ahead and picks the items, and this year we know at the end of the year the stock market took a dive, and the amount of money that you approved tonight was the earnings on his endowment, which was a little bit short
of what he wanted to purchase. So last week, he sent a check for an initial $381 to cover the items. So there are good people in our community. We mention almost every board meeting how people in our community come through, and Dr. Reitman and his wife, Dr. Eileen Cravens, want to support CHS teachers. So just wanted to make sure you understood that, or were aware that he wrote an additional check.
Thank you, Randy.
Thank you, Mr. Judd.
Director of Human Resources report, Mr. Serpa.
Yes, one quick thing. This is the exciting time of the year for human resource directors. Recruiting season starts. In fact, it starts tomorrow. I'll be at IU East recruiting teachers. And then through the month of April, we have what we call the TCID, which is in Indianapolis, where there's about 15 different colleges that bring their students in, and we interview them and look for the good teachers. And then I go to Ball State, Muncie, and Indiana State. So it'll be a busy, busy month of April.
Thank you.
Mike, how many positions do you foresee that we're going to have to fill?
I hate to give a guess.
Well,
Right now, it's really good shape.
Okay. Well, it sometimes gets out of shape, but just from what you know, you don't have as many to fill as you've had in previous years.
I really hope not. So,
Not through retirements right now.
Yeah, we don't have the retirements we've had before.
Okay.
And
No, that's true.
And I've made contact with all of the first and second year teachers that we have to go over their licensing and hopefully what their plans are, and it seems very positive at this point.
But we don't have the retirements this year.
Right, not at all.
And didn't that have to be basically set in stone by the first of, sometime in February?
Well, that's what it says, but I'm not sure we've ever followed that. The only thing they've done in the past, many years ago, is you would not receive part of your local retirement until the following January, but that hasn't been the case recently. We would hope February 1st. We'll probably get some in April 1st, you know.
Okay, Director of Finance report, Ms. Kellen Pollock.
Thank you. I think I'll take a pass.
All right, Assistant Superintendent report, Ms. Casara.
Thank you, Board President. Just a couple of things. Last week was Social Workers Week. That's kind of hard to say. And I just want to recognize our social workers. They do a great job, and our counselors. And also want to give a shout out to our community resources through Meridian and Centerstone. They are in our buildings all the time, and they are always willing to put forth any extra effort. So I just want to give a shout out to them. And then also want to compliment Megan Gilman's here. She's our new director for CFS, and she's doing a wonderful job. But she's done a great job of getting the Louise Joyner Fund. They also are an outside agency that our special ed teachers can write for specific grants. And recently, with the help of Megan, a lot of our special ed teachers have received funding from this Louise Joyner Fund for new smart boards. They recently did some donations for Special Olympics that will be coming our way. But I just want to give a shout out to Megan and all the hard work that she's done, and we appreciate her time and effort. And that's it for me, I think.
Okay, Superintendent's report.
Thank you, Mr. President. I want to congratulate our CHS Science Academic Team for placing first in the Eastern Indiana Conference. And those members are Carter James, Alex King, and Evan Osborne. And they will be moving on to compete at the regionals on April 16th. And if they advance from there, they'll move on to the state meet, which is on prom night. So we'll just see how that goes.
Yeah. Great.
And I'd also like to just recognize something that our music department did at CHS was the ensembles, a Winter Guard showcase that was held. That was just really a neat time. just for these different groups to perform, and had a nice turnout. Lori and I were talking about it after. It was a nice time. And a couple of resignations that we've had for coaching now that basketball season is over. You already accepted and approved the resignation for Jenny Mitchell. She was our cheerleader sponsor for years. And then Michael Thompson, obviously, on today's. And I just want to thank them for their longtime investment in our kids. And Spartan Bowl is a special place, and they've been integral parts of that and all the memories there. So just want to acknowledge them.
Thank you. Now we have for the good of the cause. Anybody want to share anything tonight?
I'd like to shout out to the middle school. We had our charity basketball game in February, and we raised about $1,200, and everybody really had an extremely good time. It wasn't as much as we'd had before, but dates and times and too many snow days impacted that a lot. But $1,200 is still $1,200. In the last 8 years, we have gotten over $15,000 for the food pantries, and everybody just really had a good time. And the Frazee has a thing with the Wizards coming up on April 5th. They've asked me to keep the clock. I think I can do that. And I'm real happy to help out the schools. It's a lot of fun, so I would encourage everybody to go out and watch the Wizards and enjoy the fun time on, it's a Friday, April 5th. I think the game starts at 7. So something fun to do on a spring Friday night in Connersville.
Thank you, Pam. Anybody else have anything? Okay, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
That's
You're in the chair.
You're in the chair.
Thank you, Chris.
I've never felt these shoes.
Thank you, Mark, for the second. All those in favor signify by raising your hand. Opposed, same sign. Meeting adjourned.